Once you have completed your 2 colored pencil drawings, it's time to work on the part of the agomograph that zigzags, that goes up and down. This is the backing that your drawings are going to be attached to. So you are going to take a piece of paper that is 9 inches by 24 inches. The paper that you've been working on for your drawings is also 9 inches, so you can see that they will fit the short way. And then these are 12 inches, so 2 of them will fill 24 inches. So what you're going to start with is along the left-hand side, you are going to start measuring. You need a ruler, okay, and you are going to line up 0 with the left-hand side, and you're going to try to keep it relatively straight towards the top. These rulers that I have, 0 is the edge of the paper, but if you have a ruler that 0 is in a little bit, you have to take note of that. Okay, so make sure your ruler is relatively straight, and you're going to make little marks at every inch. Notice how on these rulers, the 2 is not under the long line. So it's not this short line, it's this long line is the 2. This long line is the 3. With the double digits, the long line is in between the 2 numbers. Notice how my ruler is only 18 inches and the paper is 24 inches. So what you have to do is pick up the ruler, line up the marks with the inch marks. Make sure they all line up nicely. And then continue. Okay. Now, 1 set of marks is not enough. If you make 1 mark, you have no idea where the lines are going to end up. And if you just have 1 mark, you're going to end up with tons of crooked lines. So you need to do the same thing you just did on the top, but do it this time on the bottom. So that means lining it up on near the bottom edge. Make sure 0 is along the left-hand side, and you're going to make little marks every 2 inches. Sorry, every 1 inch. Once you have measured out 1 inches, both top and bottom, now it's time to connect those lines. But in order to do that, first I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and just put it under my paper as I work, so when I make my lines and they go off the page, it doesn't get on the table. And also, instead of using my pencil, I'm going to use a pen. A ballpoint pen works best. You want something that you can put a good amount of pressure down onto the paper, because you're going to want to do something called scoring the paper. Scoring the paper means you're making a line that almost gives like an indent to the paper. So what you're going to do is, now I am a righty, so I put my ruler on the left side of my marks. So if you're a lefty, reverse that. I put my ruler and I line up the 1 inch mark on the top and the 1 inch mark on the bottom. A lot of students, they rush that. They'll line up the top one, they let go, they line up the second one, and then they make their line, but that moved. So that's not really your line. So you need to look at both of them at the same time and adjust it until they line up with both. Then you plant your hand. If I plant my hand here, this is not wiggling. Okay, you don't want that ruler to move. And you are going to draw your line from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper with a good amount of pressure. What that does is I can almost feel like a little bump. So that's called scoring the paper. So that later on we'll have an easier time folding it. And you're going to do that at each of these inch markings. I'm going to shift my scrap paper down as I go. So the side that you drew your lines on is actually going to end up being the back. So the side that doesn't have the lines is the front. If you scored your paper well, you could actually see the bumps through. Because this is the front, it wants to zig up first before it goes back down, like the mountain comes first. So when you are on the reverse of that, that means that you fold in first. So when you're on here, your very first fold is going to be folding towards the page. Because you scored, look how easy that is. It just folds. I don't really have to even line anything up too much. It just makes that fold because I put the pressure on that line. Same thing, so I go back and forth. Same thing, I just put light pressure and it finds the fold based on the line I drew. And you go back and forth. Okay, the last one should also be folded in so that when you flip it over, the last two are mountains. And that's how your agomograph is going to look. It folded very easily because I put a lot of pressure, and you can see the folds are exactly onto those lines. If you did it correctly, when it becomes an accordion, the edges should be pretty straight, top, bottom, and the sides. It shouldn't be like uneven in there. Once you have this done, you are going to, on the side where you have your lines, so the back, write your name and your class number.